Good afternoon, everyone. This is Atmospheric Alex here, and welcome back to another severe weather outlook and discussion for today. We're going to be talking about a potentially strong tornado risk developing really tomorrow evening. I was going to say today, but it's actually going to be happening tomorrow, and you can see that here with our Storm Prediction Center's convective outlook. We are outlining an enhanced risk for severe weather across portions of northern Kansas there and southern Nebraska as well. So we're kind of going to be keeping a sharp eye on tomorrow as things go. We do have a 5% risk for tornadoes and a SIG 1, meaning we do have a chance for strong tornadoes. Not a high chance, but we definitely could see one out of mesoscale interactions. In terms of our wind risk, again, not that much. Could we see that get upgraded? We'll have to wait and see, but a 30% chance of winds between 75 to even as high as 85 miles an hour at our SIG 1 caliber level there. And for our hail risk, we do in fact have a pretty good risk of hail, especially in your red outlined area. Going into Sunday here, this outlook could change a lot over the next few days. We're talking about a very large slight risk for severe weather, though I do think it could go enhanced in certain areas. Models are being very uncertain though, with timing, with intensity, with just about everything with this event. This could be another very significant severe weather / tornado outbreak, or maybe it'll just be a mesoscale day where we see little features cause severe weather, and that's kind of what the SPC is outlining here. As we take a good look on what could happen tomorrow according to Aguacero weather here, you can see we do have some pretty good supercell composite values across the board, and storms could begin developing as early as tomorrow afternoon, actually. It's a little bit of a surprise there, but tomorrow afternoon we're already going to be seeing storms going up in Nebraska, portions of Kansas as well. Those definitely won't be much of an issue yet. It's not going to be until the evening that lays out a boundary. Take a look at this. My pen's freaking out again, but if we can see any supercell ride that boundary right there, we could perhaps have a strong tornado risk. That's why that risk area has been outlined, as expected. And you can see supercells do kind of develop across far eastern Colorado. Those are probably going to be very photogenic in nature. Further north, further south, they move into the more favorable environment. And take a look at that. You do have this complex of storms here kind of riding along down your boundary. Though that would be a lot more messy in nature. It would not really support a strong tornado threat. On the other hand, if we were to see a discrete supercell ride that, we would have a lot more problems. So that's kind of what we're seeing there. Storms, again, off to the south of this congeals into a pretty big Boeing segment of wind. That's why I said, could we potentially see an upgrade to our wind risk? We'll have to wait and see. But again, that is where your 80 plus mile an hour winds could occur along that wind segment there. And that's something we're going to have to watch for. And this will just kind of continue throughout the night and really goes for a very long distance. I would definitely think that a derecho could be possible. Not likely, but it's certainly possible with the setup that we're dealing with. As we take a good look at our surface dew points, well, they're going to be quite sufficient enough. We're turning the clock into Saturday here. Again, you could see that very sharp thermal boundary right there. Again, anything that rides along that will become a very big problem later in the evening. We do have 70-degree dew points kind of creeping in towards the end there, and that's kind of when your storm coverage will become a lot more significant. You'll have a lot more storms kind of in this general area because you encounter your 70-plus degree dew points. Now, what does your storm energy look like here? You can see we are going to have a plentiful amount of it. That thermal boundary there, we have over 2,000 CAPE as definitely enough for severe weather, maybe significant severe weather. And I do fully think, actually, not just expect, that the HRRR model is underdoing the amount of storm energy. It tends to overmix the environment a lot, kind of dry things out too quickly. That is a known model bias, so I wouldn't take this too seriously. I do think our CAPE values could be closer to maybe 3,000 to 3,500 tomorrow afternoon, which could really increase your risk. And you can see throughout time, as that continues, you're going to have plentiful amounts of storm energy. Now, how about for your tornado target? This is a good tool I like to look at, your 0 to 3 kilometer cape, and it literally just shows exactly what I was talking about along that thermal boundary. It's not a lot of 3 cape, but it is enough, and that would definitely promote your tornado risk. You're talking a lot of surface vorticity along a boundary like that. So any discrete supercells that fire there would promote a strong tornado risk. Couldn't even rule out an intense tornado, though that is very uncertain at the moment. And really not much else happens. The overnight hours, you get another bit of a maximum right over here if storms can move into that environment. Maybe could see a tornado risk heighten over there as well. Now, how about our 0 to 1 kilometer storm relative helicity? It's a very important tool that we can use again to forecast tornadoes, and it's kind of similar to 3 cape in a way. You can see where your boundary is, and there is a little bit of a splotch there of favorable, 0 to 1 kilometer helicity for strong tornadoes in that yellow area. So that's something we're kind of monitoring there. And this does continue to increase throughout time. And again, it's very fascinating to me that we do have some more elevated values up here that may be more elevated in nature to begin with, and then some more stuff off to the south and west. We'll have to watch out for that as well. There is going to be a lot of uncertainties that need to be nailed out by tomorrow. That's going to be a bit difficult. You could see another kind of pocket up through this area here, but things aren't aligning exactly as they should. So again, we're going to have to wait and see. There are some uncertainties to iron out, 100% sure on that. As we take a look at our supercell composite parameters here, they're greatly going to increase tomorrow. That thermal boundary is going to be locked and loaded. Again, any cells that ride that, big problems. You can see this environment does continue to increase, get a little bit more significant off to the south here. Seeing near Wichita, Kansas, around a 6 to an 8 on your supercell composite. That is a bit significant. And I also want to point out, too, if we have any storms down in this area here, definitely could see a more heightened risk for significant severe weather and maybe even a strong tornado risk going into northern Oklahoma and the panhandle there. That's not a certainty, but if models continue to show that, we'll have to continue to monitor it. Very high-end parameters right there in that tiny area. Though again, will anything interact with that? I'm not entirely too sure. This over here is going to be capped to all goodness. You're going to see a lot of warm and dry air aloft, preventing or kind of causing a lid preventing storms to form. So not much is expected in that area there, even though you're probably thinking that is a volatile environment. Well, yeah, if it wasn't capped over to begin with. And that environment does continue for a bit longer throughout the night as well, but no storms can utilize it. We're going to talk about some very strong wind gusts with these storms as well. Remember how I just said 80 mile an hour winds were going to be possible? Well, we could definitely be talking about it. Let's kind of forward the clock in time here. And we're going to use a little bit of a tool here to kind of get a better look at things. Our scope tool, look at our wind gusts here. You can see right there upwards of 75 miles an hour. And I'm just kind of picking out certain areas. Look at that, 83 miles an hour there. So certainly is going to be significant winds. That's why we have our SIG 1 for our winds out. And like up here, gusting up to around 70, maybe a bit more. You have a storm down there, upwards of around 80. So that really is going to continue to move on through. Again, right there, more significant winds. You have another segment right there. And it looks like after that, things will kind of, wind down, calm down a bit. But where you do have your very favorable, environment down here, you are going to have some very strong surface winds. So just kind of keep that in mind. You could have 50 to maybe even 55 mile an hour gusts in portions of northern Oklahoma and southwestern Kansas. Now, as we take a good look at Sunday here, I had to kind of restart a few things, but we're talking about, again, a pretty big severe weather event being possible. Very, very favorable ingredients across the board. You have, looks like a pretty good complex of severe weather off to the north there, maybe a bit elevated in nature, but a pretty good parameter space all throughout the area. And we are expecting to, or not expecting, but could potentially be talking about clusters and supercellular storms forming as we go into Sunday evening. Where that will happen, we don't know. It could happen up here in portions of, central northern Missouri, or it could happen in central Arkansas. We have no idea. I mean, there's going to be that morning round of storms that I literally just showed you. and some models have this draped a lot further off to the south. And so the morning convection is going to be pushing the risk further south, and we kind of need to determine what all is going to happen. That's pretty difficult at this time, but that could be pretty vigorous in nature. All right, after all those technical difficulties that happen sometimes, we're looking at our NAM model, at our ingredients for Sunday here, and you can see we do have very high dew point values. I went through this before, and I accidentally used the HRRR model from tomorrow, and I was wondering why things didn't look too impressive. But you can see we do have dew points in the mid-70s across a pretty large area there. Again, how far north this winds up going is very uncertain at this time, and even further off to the south, very hot and humid for sure. As we take a look at our storm energy, we're going to have a lot of it. Look at this, between 4,000 to 5,000 kp here down throughout this area. So certainly if storms do form, they're going to form fast and explosively, to be honest, as well. And your 3,000 kp does go pretty far out. You see, that boundary right there. How far north does that lift? We have no idea just yet. And continuing that through time, that is going to be the focal point of storm initiation, kind of right within this area, right within there. Our storm relative helicity is going to be pretty elevated as well. I think that's something that really should be noted here. You can see further off to the north. Now that is north of our warm sector, so that's something very important to note. If you see these values off to the north of your warm sector, storms are not going to be able to take advantage of it. They'll be elevated, kind of, not really doing all that much. As our lower level jet increases though, you do in fact see some yellow colors trying to develop there along your boundary, along really your warm front there. And so I guess that is kind of something to watch out for in terms of maybe a more significant severe weather threat, especially even a strong tornado threat where we could see that much helicity develop. And our supercell composite parameters are going to be pretty elevated, it does appear. You can see a lot of orange and red colors on your screen there. So again, indicating your heightened severe weather risk for Sunday, and then going through time even further, especially becomes prevalent along that boundary right there. You have some much more higher values there being denoted. And if anything random can fire in the open warm sector, we could have a few problems with that. We'll have to wait and see. And really quickly before we end off the video, I just want to note that we're going to continue having a pretty significant flooding risk across the southeast here. We have yet again another moderate risk for flash flooding today. We actually had a high risk yesterday, and that was perfectly warranted. We had nearly 30 inches of rain falling in portions of southern Alabama and Mississippi. It was a really rough event for sure. So we're going to continue to see a ton of rainfall across that area today, which could only exacerbate flooding issues that are currently ongoing. And as we go into tomorrow's outlook, there is a slight risk still in place across portions of that area down there as well. That, yet again, that is going to make flooding even worse. If you live in those areas, you need to stay highly weather aware, and you need to get to higher ground if you possibly can. And you can see we also have a moderate risk up here. We'll have to wait and see how that pans out. All right, and with that being said, please enjoy the European model loop for the storm energy over the next week or two. Again, severe weather is going to stay a little bit more active than it was before, so we're just going to kind of have to monitor the situation. That said, if you did enjoy the video, please be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to my little corner of the weather community, share this video with friends, family on social media, even feel free to leave a comment in the section below if you found this video very informative, detailed, and even a little bit life-saving, I guess, as well. And I just want to thank you all for your recent support. I really do appreciate that. We got the word out to a lot of people on that recent tornado outbreak. I definitely could have done a bit better in the video, like mentioning morning convection and stuff like that. But at least I got the word out that violent tornadoes would be possible the other day. And sure enough, it pretty much did come true. Have a wonderful night, everyone, and I'll see you back here very soon.